Hello, and welcome to National Fellowships and Scholar Program's Fall Workshop on Fellowship Opportunities for STEM Students. My name is Jennifer Bess. I'm Director of National Fellowships, but here you can see our staff, all of whom are available to answer questions and offer advice on a variety of fellowship or scholar program opportunities. I wanted to start off by talking about what is a National Fellowship. Our office advises students for a variety of national fellowships, and essentially these are merit-based awards that are grants given to you from outside the university. So we do not have funding in our office, but we try and match you with sources of funding from outside the university. They are typically portable financial awards given to students across the US, hence the nationally competitive, and they're for undergrad or graduate study across all disciplines. There's a variety of things. This workshop is going to focus on STEM options. What's going to happen is I'm going to run through a little information about each of these competitions, but I just wanted to give you a big overview of what we're about to talk about. We're going to look at NSF REUs, the Goldwater, the Hollings, the REUS, the SMART, NIH internships, the South Carolina Space Consortium, NSF, and then the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy graduate awards. All of those competitions are STEM specific. Then I've got 4 other competitions, the BOREN, the FULBRIGHT, the Gilman, and PPIA, which have special initiatives for students who study STEM fields. Those programs are not exclusive to STEM majors, and they don't tend to focus on STEM fields, but they have incentives and advantages for STEM applicants. So hang on, here we go. We're going to start with NSF REUs, and these are all spread out basically. The competitions I'm going to talk about are in order of how early you can apply for these in your undergrad career. So NSF REUs, Research Experiences for Undergrads, are offered by the National Science Foundation, and these are programs throughout the US that are funded by NSF, but that occur in a variety of fields. They're fully funded opportunities, so they provide travel, room and board, and a stipend for doing research with a group of other students and a PI. And I recommend studying or searching by field of study, possibly location if there's a particular place that you want to be. That website link gives you the list of all the different programs. Because these are programs that are funded by NSF but not necessarily run by NSF, there's not a single application process for these. Each one has its own application. So you want to make sure that you read the preferences of the specific programs and you want to track what the various deadlines are. They might be as early as December, but they're more often going to be in January or February. So we recommend that you apply to multiple REUs because they are very popular. If you find only 1 or 2 that really fit your interests, then that's plenty. But I think applying for about 5 to 7 is a good number to shoot for, realistically, in terms of getting one of them. Freshmen are eligible for a lot of them, but not necessarily very competitive. So most people we see getting REUs are sophomores or juniors, but we certainly encourage freshmen to apply because I think it's a great chance to start seeing what's out there, and we have definitely had freshmen win them. So these are good for any STEM field, any year. The second fellowship I'll talk about is the Goldwater Scholarship. So this is probably the most prestigious undergrad award for students who plan a career in research, in STEM research. It is a nominated competition. So unlike REUs that you can apply to whenever, this one, there's a very specific process. The university can only nominate 4 students from campus. And so we have an entire campus process with the faculty committee. And so we recruit throughout the fall semester. It's usually a mid-October deadline on campus. And then the committee will choose the 4 nominees and then continue to work with them throughout the fall and into January. It is only for current sophomores or juniors. So you can apply as a sophomore. If you are not a recipient or not a nominee, you're welcome to reapply as a junior. But you do have to have a career in research. So sometimes we have medical students interested. If you're interested in doing an MD, PhD, that is an option, but not just an MD. So the key pieces for Goldwater, they are really looking at GPA as a reflection of how well you are doing in your classes. But research experience is really what they're looking for. Doesn't have to be very extensive, although the more the better. It can be If you've been in one lab but have done different projects, that's fine. It's great if you have applied for REUs and done an REU. So really they're looking for your research experiences and the products of your research. So publications, presentations, ways that you have shared what you have learned, because you're trying to convince them that you are a good bet for having an extensive career as a research scientist. Funding-wise, this is up to $7,500, so it depends on what your financial aid package is, how much you would get, but for this award, it really is about the prestige of being named a Goldwater Scholar. And there you can see our most recent 2 Goldwater Scholars, Ian and Zoe. The NOAA Hollings Scholarship is another fantastic, relatively early career fellowship to apply for. You have to be a sophomore, so only sophomores are eligible for the Hollings. And so this award is sponsored by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And what they're looking for is students whose career paths and goals align with NOAA's mission. So a lot of our students for Hollings come out of, say, marine science, environmental science, things like that, but they're also looking for students maybe who have an interest in environmental policy or plan to go into environmental law. They're looking for people in economics and math and statistics to help do some of the analysis. So it's really a wide range of things. As long as you can see yourself fitting somewhere into NOAA, I think it's worth looking at the Hollings. Having research experience is helpful, but not necessarily required. They're interested in what you're interested in. And so this is a competition where anyone is able to apply on their own. There's not a formal campus process, but we do advise you to come in and have us work with you on your essays. There's one really big essay for this application, and so there's a lot you need to pack into that. And so we have a pre-application that we've created this year that will be due December 2nd, and that's just to get you started early enough to really put together a competitive application. The national deadline is usually end of January. What you get with the NOAA Hollings Scholarship is pretty fantastic. So you apply as a sophomore, and if you are selected as a Hollings Scholar, that spring/summer you would go to DC and meet the other Hollings Scholars, get a tour of NOAA, kind of hear what they're about. You would receive a scholarship as a junior of $9,500 for the full year. And then as a senior, you would also receive $9,500 for the year. In between your junior and senior year, that summer, you would do an internship with a NOAA facility that is fully funded, that is chosen by you, and is a great way to give you experience in the field and tighten your connections with NOAA. So this is a fantastic opportunity. We are the number 3 school in the country for producing Hollings Scholars, and so we are very excited for students to consider and applying for this. The Dodd REUS program, this is a summer research program in Germany. And so I always reassure students that you don't have to know German, but if you do know some, that's great. The language in the labs is English. You should be a sophomore or a junior to apply for this. They want you to still have some time left on campus when you come back so that you can share your experiences. And what happens is I think it's November 1st, they'll open a database that is a list of projects that German PhD students are looking for American students to come and help them with for the summer. And you can choose up to 3 of those projects to apply for. You should pick ones that are in your field of interest that maybe build on skills you have or expand skills that you have. And so it's a single application process, but you would, if you picked 3 programs, you would write a cover letter to each of the individual PhD students for each of those programs. Everything else is just a single application. This is a funded program, although I would not say it's fully funded. They pay you a stipend while you are in Germany that would cover your expenses, and they pay for your travel to Germany. But anything else you need to pay for on your own. And it's not an opportunity where you will make money off of this. It would just cover things. But you get to spend the summer in beautiful places, like here is Will Rivers at Neuschwanstein Castle. And Germany is just kind of a fun place to be and an interesting place to do STEM research. One piece of advice I would have is I think that the programs in Berlin and Munich are probably more popular than those in other towns because those are the big cities that people know. And so all things being equal, I usually recommend that you have 2 of your 3 choices for program sites be outside of those large cities. because you're still going to have a great experience, and the odds, I think, are slightly more in your favor. One nice thing about this is because you are matching up with a PhD student is that there is some flexibility to the dates. They'll usually give you a range of when they would like you to start, but they can work around some things depending on what your schedule is. So the Dodd Rise. The SMART Scholarship, Science, Math, and Research for Transformation. So this program is for undergrads or grads. You can apply as a freshman, as a sophomore. That would provide funding for the rest of your undergrad experience. You cannot apply as a junior, but then you could apply as a senior or an early grad student for it to fund grad school. They have a preference for undergrads applying, actually. So if you're a freshman or sophomore, I would encourage you to look at the SMART. This is sponsored by the Department of Defense. And it's an incredibly supportive and lucrative scholarship. If you receive the SMART scholarship, they will fully fund your tuition and fees for the remainder of your undergrad career, as well as give you a living stipend that is extremely generous. They also require you to do a summer internship experience with the Department of Defense at a Department of Defense site of your choosing, right? You work with them to figure out where it is that you want to go. And then it does have a post-graduation service requirement, which just means that if you receive the SMART, after graduation, you would be required to work for the Department of Defense for the same number of years that you received the award. That does mean if you receive it as an undergrad, you would have to go to work for them before you could go to grad school. But in this current state of the world, it's not a bad thing to have guaranteed employment post-graduation. And while I call it a service requirement, they do pay you. This is not a volunteer year or two. You would be an employee of the Department of Defense. We've had several students win. I think we had 3 students win last year. And then pictured here, we have Gabby Heron, who's going to be working at the Naval Oceanographic Office this coming year because she just graduated. So this is a fantastic opportunity if your research interests align with something that is of interest to the Department of Defense. If you're on the more medical side of interest in STEM, the NIH, the National Institute of Health, does offer some summer internships. So this, primarily they occur at the main office in Bethesda, but there's a couple other satellite sites in the US that might be available. And they have some sub-programs for specific populations, but most people would probably be looking at the general program. So there's a single application that you submit to NIH, but then they ask that you directly reach out to PIs at NIH that you want to work with to let them know that your application is in the general program. This is a little unusual. So you put yourself in the big pool for being chosen for the internship, but then it's through your direct outreach to potential PIs that you make the good impression and are more likely to get an opportunity. The application opens in mid-November and doesn't close for several months, but statistically speaking, the earlier you submit, the better your chances. I think most students who are successful with applying for the NIH apply within the first 2 to 3 weeks of that application being open. So really you want to apply before the end of the fall semester to have your best chance. We've not worked a ton with students on these, although we've definitely had several USC students win these awards. So I'd recommend that you definitely go through the website and resources that they have. They have a lot of information about what they're looking for and how to put together a competitive application. And then we're happy to support you in doing that. The South Carolina Space Consortium, so in conjunction with NASA, there are several different scholarships that they offer. There's an undergraduate research award, a minorities in STEM research award, there's a STEM outreach award, and then the Palmetto Academy Research Award. Most of these provide funding more typically for during the year. The Palmetto Academy Research Award is like an REU. So it is a summer program that various faculty at schools in South Carolina propose projects for and then receive funding for students to join them for the summer. So that's the one I would target for summer opportunities. But we've definitely had students win each of these other awards that provide several $1,000s of funding for research that you're doing that is of interest to NASA. So typically their website lists all these different options, but there's usually a single deadline, or they all have the same deadline, which is in late January. Moving on to options that focus a little bit more on graduate school. So the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program, the NSF GRFP, is probably the most well-known. So this program offers up to 3 years of funding over a 5-year period of your choice for either master's or PhDs in STEM or social science fields. They really are targeting graduating seniors. They love it. They love to have students apply as they are about to enter grad school, although you are also eligible to apply once either in your first or second year of grad school. It's up to you. It's a very supportive fellowship, so it provides $12,000 of tuition funding and then a $34,000 stipend for those 3 years. It actually can be used as kind of a bargaining tool. We've had students who have applied to graduate programs, not gotten in or been waitlisted, who then get NSF funding and are able to go back to the school and say, hey, if I come with funding, is there a spot for me? And oftentimes a spot opens up. So this is a good option to look at. And the deadlines for it are usually in mid to late October, which means you can put together if you put together a strong NSF application, you then have the materials that you would need to put together your strong actual grad school applications. So it's a great fellowship to apply for as a senior. Essentially, the application is 2 primary essays. There's a 3-page personal statement that talks about your interest in your field, your motivations, any research experience, and sort of your big picture long-term goals. And then there's a 2-page research proposal. So the research proposal should be something that you typically would pitch towards your first choice of university and program for graduate school. They want to see that you understand how to put together a research proposal, but also that you know how to make use of the resources that might be available at a particular institution. One thing that's important to note, though, is that NSF is not actually trying to fund your research, right? This is an award that goes to you as an individual because they think that you show promise in being a successful research scientist. So if you never do that research project, that's okay. They just want to use that essay as a way to evaluate your potential. The 2 things that they are evaluating you on is intellectual merit and broader impacts. For intellectual merit, they want to make sure that you are actually advancing the science in your field. The questions that you're asking are not just a rehash of previous questions, but that are actually pushing forward and advancing the science. The broader impacts is kind of a twofold question. So on the one hand, it's the broader impact of the research. Why is what you're studying matter? How is that going to make a difference to the world in general? But then it's also broader impacts of you as a scientist. There are some societal goals that NSF has for this program that they are interested in looking at. So for example, they're looking to increase the number of underrepresented minorities and women in STEM fields. They're looking to increase scientific literacy amongst the general US population. They're looking for creating a competitive global scientific community. So some of these things are can be shown in activities that you might be involved in within or outside of your academic studies and research. So it's kind of big picture. We are happy to advise you on this. We also have some previous winning applications that you can look at for those 2 essays if you get stuck and have questions. And note that it is a portable award. So, especially if you're applying as a senior, they know that you don't know where you will be for grad school yet, and that's fine. If you win the NSF, it is given to you to be used at whatever school you ultimately end up in. Although you do have to attend school in the fall following receiving the NSF. So that's a fantastic program. The Department of Defense offers the NDSEG, the National Defense Science and Engineering Graduate Fellowship. This is very similar to the SMART that I discussed earlier. So this is sponsored by the Department of Defense. It's for PhD students in specific disciplines, but it's a pretty wide range of disciplines that are of interest to the Department of Defense. They will provide 3 years of funding. It is full tuition and stipend, travel allowance, health insurance allowance. So this is fully funded. And unlike the SMART, it does not have a service requirement. So it just wants to see that your interests and research fields align with the goals that the Department of Defense have. So we've had several students win this. I think our most recent think our most recent is Erin McParland. She won it in 2014 and it funded her graduate degree. And now she's doing her postdoc at Woods Hole out of MIT. So I always like to feature students so that you can see that we do have USC students who win these awards. The Department of Energy Computational Science Graduate Fellowship, CSGF. I call all of these alphabet soup, right? The STEM awards have a lot of acronyms. So this is an award sponsored by the Department of Energy. It's for students pursuing PhDs, and there's two options. So originally it was only for students whose graduate work utilized high-performance computing. They've expanded it a couple years ago to also now include students who actually are studying the technology that enables high-performance computing. So you can either be on the math and computer science end of studying how to make this high-performance computing possible, or you can be in a field that needs the high-performance computing to accomplish the research and analysis that you need. This is up to 4 years of support, so it's a little bit longer of a time period. It offers full tuition, a $38,000 annual stipend, and they do a 12-week practicum at the Department of Energy, at a Department of Energy facility. One of the trickier parts about this application is that your program of study for your graduate school, that actually has to be approved by the Department of Energy. It is part of your application. So this is one where it's really helpful if you work hand in hand with the program that you really want to do for grad school, because you will need to list out the coursework that you're taking. And they ask for that because they want to make sure that you actually need and will learn the skills to utilize the high performance computing. So it's kind of a check on that. So that's one of the differences about this one. It's a fantastic fellowship. This is Riley Brady, who won it in 2016, and it's funding his graduate work at Colorado Boulder. He's working on climate change analysis. So this is a fantastic program. So those are all the ones that were really specifically STEM focused. Now I'm going to show you these 4 options that have STEM initiatives. So if you're interested at all in study abroad and or language study, then the BOREN and the Gilman Scholarship might be worth looking at. The BOREN Scholarship is for critical language study abroad. There's a really big list of languages that qualify for this. It's essentially any non-Western European language. So anything except for French, Spanish, German, Italian. And you can be starting from the very beginning level with BOREN. That's fine. You just need a reason for studying the language and a long-term plan for continuing to use it. They have some preferred fields of study, of which STEM is one of them. And they have a preference for students to be abroad for 6 months or longer. That's a very strong preference, but they have a special initiative. So only STEM majors are eligible for summer-only funding for BOREN. So if you want to spend 8 to 11 weeks abroad doing some intense language study, you can get up to $8,000 for the summer as a STEM major. You do have to talk about how your interest in the language and the language itself relates to U.S. national security, broadly defined. And BOREN does have a service requirement where if you receive a BOREN scholarship, you then have to work for the federal government for a year after you graduate. There's a whole lot of different ways you can do that. The Department of Defense would certainly be a location that you could do that service, connecting back, say, to the SMART or the NDSEG. But there's lots of different options for doing that service requirement. And you can defer that service requirement for graduate school, just FYI. The Gilman Scholarship is if you receive a Pell Grant as part of your financial aid, then you would be eligible for Gilman, and it is a study abroad scholarship of up to $5,000 for a summer or semester abroad. The Gilman Scholarship is looking to increase the diversity amongst the applicants for study abroad, and STEM majors are underrepresented in that area, and so you would have an extra boost in your application for this. If you receive a Gilman Scholarship, you also ultimately receive non-competitive hiring status in the federal government, which means that you can just be hired for a position. So if you have any interest in working for the government, that can be a nice bonus for being a Gilman Scholar. PPIA, the Public Policy and International Affairs, they have a Junior Summer Institute. So if you apply as a junior to do summer courses that focus on public policy and international affairs, you take graduate level courses. There's 5 different universities you can go to. And if you receive one of these and become an alum, you then actually are eligible to receive funding for grad schools in the consortium that's part of PPIA. The reason that I include this on the slide is that there is a program at Carnegie Mellon that focuses on data analytics. So if that's the area of interest for you in STEM, that could be a good option. Last I checked, if you got the Junior Summer Institute and then wanted to go to grad school at Carnegie Mellon in that data analytics, it would be fully funded, which is kind of a nice perk. So this is a picture of Carly. She's our first PPIA scholar from this past year, and she was with the Minnesota program that they ended up doing virtually. And finally, because I always talk about Fulbright grants with everyone, Fulbright is an option for STEM students. Fulbright offers a year abroad after graduation. There's 3 essential types. You can teach English, you can earn a master's degree, or you can do independent research. It is a fully funded program that's funded jointly between the host country and the US. And many countries have preferences for STEM majors that they might put in their grant descriptions. 9 countries have awards specifically for STEM applicants, and those typically are for master's degrees, although they also welcome independent research projects. So if you have any international interest, want to experience research in another country or earn a master's degree, Fulbright is a great option to look at. You would apply over this summer and early fall of your senior year if you want to do this right after graduation, but you're also eligible until you have earned your PhD. So it's something that you can look at as a grad student as well. And pictured here, we have Alexis Bantel. She did a research grant to Germany where she continued some research related to her undergrad research for the year. So that's Fulbright. So those are all the ones I wanted to run through that are STEM focused. In terms of what to do now, you can continue to do well in your classes. Make sure that you are challenging yourself in your classes and not taking the easy way out. Not that STEM classes are easy, but that's part of what your transcript shows when you're applying to these fellowships. Definitely would encourage you to pursue research options, whether that's on campus, whether that's over the summer, whether it's one of these like the REUs that we talked about or the .RISE. Research is really going to be key to getting you some of these competitive awards. And again, Goldwater is really focused on what the products of your research are. So find ways to present your research, if it's posters or presentations or publications. It is discipline specific, so some disciplines it's easier than others or more expected than others. Don't forget to look at the Office of Undergraduate Research on campus. They have Magellan funding that will help with research projects on campus. Discover UofSC is a great forum for presenting your work, either in a poster or presentation. And then we have Caraval and Carolina Crosstalk are 2 campus journals that you can publish your research in. So those are good things to watch out for. And then really you want to talk with your faculty mentors and your PIs because they are your network. They're your potential recommenders. They can help you think about, where are you headed? What are good next steps? They might have connections at other schools, whether that's nationally or internationally. They can talk with you about what are the good relevant grad programs that you might want to look at in your specific field. They're just going to be super key to all of these competitions and your future path. So don't forget to network with them. That's it for me. Remember, our office, National Fellowships and Scholar Programs, is here to help you with any of these applications. There will be links to our office and to all of these programs below in the description below this video. And we welcome you to make an appointment to talk with the fellowship advisor about any of these competitions so that we can support you in the application process. And we look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks so much for watching.